Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're watching us from. It's a beautiful moment to share the Workplace Happiness Program today from a perspective of return on investment. The fact that we are living in times where there is a shift and we can all feel that shift. So, what would happen in the past is the focus would be highly on control. So we would have managers specifically in organizations designed for control. But right now, the focus is on human potential. We've evolved so much such that you actually can put a human being in one space, confide them, and tell them this is how you do what needs to be done. And they do it exactly in that robotic manner. We're in times where people want to take full ownership and accountability for the result. So that is what we'll be covering today. How does one go about that, especially from an organization perspective? How do you ensure you have a high performing team which is happy and bringing high profitability? Because remember, that's why we have businesses, but it can be attained with happy employees. So it's about learning how do you balance them all, because they can all coexist. So we've lived in times where it's one or the other, either or. No, there's something we always study at Happiness Studies Academy in New York, where we use and. So where there is or, you change it to and. We call it the genius approach. So the moment you take the and, it shows abundance. You uplift the abundance to see over and beyond that. So for today, we will be breaking this down to see how can we be there to ensure maximum productivity and profitability while still having happy employees in the organization. So in the past, we would have a lot of control and then efficiency and predictability. So by the end of this session, we'll look at how will this be like in the new way of handling business, such that they both get to bloom, because they can. So as we sit right now, because of the slow adjustment to the trends, we are experiencing a lot of burnout in organizations, which results to depression in the end. I know that because I've been through that. I know how that it goes, and you never want to hit that rock bottom, because at the same time, there's high productivity expected from you, but that time you actually need a lot of tender love and care. Imagine you're still expected to give from an empty space. Your cup is barely empty, but it doesn't count. You still need to show up and deliver the results. That takes us to really think about the impact of an employee going through burnout. As leaders, how do we change that narrative? Because it's avoidable. And one of the mechanisms we'll be covering today is called the LOX model, because it's through listening to understand, not listening to respond. And leaders, we are very fond of that. Most of the times we listen to respond. And we need to get to a point where we are having empath taking the day in leadership. Then there is disengagement of employees. And of course, it starts from the top. If the leader is disengaged, it flows down. Quiet quitting. So many employees nowadays are quiet quitting their jobs. So you will see them showing up, but they're doing the bare minimum. These are people who can bloom all the way to C-suite level. But what happens? They just want to receive their pay at the end of the month and go about their life. Why is that the case? And how can we change that? So that is what we get to cover through the Workplace Happiness Program, to change the narrative on how that looks. Then there is a high turnover cost. Of course, when people are not happy, what happens most of the time is they won't stay at the job. You will just find people leaving on a very high frequency. That is actually a big red alert for an organization. So, how do we get to change this for the best results? Because at the end of the day, this is very, very expensive. Very, very expensive. And here comes the best part. The best part is about redefining happiness. Happiness here, we are looking at it from a very strategic approach. How does happiness become a performance driver? Because if I am a happy human, when I'm showing up at my workplace, I am ready and happy to deliver the best results, right? Who is here with me? Can I see a hello in the chat? A confirmation we are doing this, that you're on the right momentum and you feel this is the right place to be to deliver the best results. I can hear a hooray, a happiness, and maybe share where you got to know about this masterclass from. And we get dive, dive, we dive deep right into it. That's what we are all about today. How can we redefine happiness such that in companies, it's not just about the profitability, it's about understanding human potential. You're with humans, and humans love to be treated as humans. It's the only way they know how. So, this level of control of working with humans as robotic systems, it gotta go. It gotta go out of the house. How is the business impact when it comes to happiness? When people are happy, automatically there's an increase in productivity. People show up in the best way. And one of the next master classes I'll be covering is on the 10th quadrant. It's covered by Stephen Covey on 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, where he breaks down on what is urgent, important, what is urgent, not important, what is important, not urgent, and what is not urgent and not important. And this is a critical part when it comes to increasing productivity. And what you'll find, a lot of leaders, we spend our time in Q1. Q1 is where things are urgent and important, and that's why we need to leave the team. And why does that happen? It's because of something we'll cover later about the approach to take when it comes to coaching. How do you let people take ownership and accountability for their own results? Because that is how someone feels like they're rewarded. They went through the whole journey of doing the job that was expected of them, and you let them own the results at the end of the day instead of spending a better time of your day focusing on this employee, checking, did you do this, did you do that? Well, it's automatic for them, because if they're motivated and they are keen on the job, of course they will deliver results. And that is the main focus of the workplace happiness program, changing the narrative from control to autonomy, because a human being delivers the best results when they're left at it to do it their own way, and you will be sure they will deliver even higher than the set KPIs and objective and key results for the organization. Then we have lower turnover, because if I am happy at my workplace and my leader is supporting me in my job, what happens automatically? It is that I am happy to grow in this environment. And so I won't spend a lot of my work time on LinkedIn or job hunting. I will spend that time delivering results that I am happy to. And it is very attainable. I've been there. I was in a company called Copia, which is an e-commerce company. And for that period of time, I had leaders who would let me just be go deliver results of here. And that made me win the sales managers cap the rewards all through the years because of that autonomy, because every human being has potential and they can exponentially grow on that if you leave them to it. Then higher engagement. Of course, if I am a happy employee, I will I will be very intentional on engaging with the C-suite, if there's an opportunity to engage with the board and the investors and my fellow colleagues, of course, because I feel I am part of this company and I am rewarded well for being part of it. I have a voice, my voice is heard. And there's nothing as beautiful as leaving people be, like they be heard across the room, because that is how one feels they're growing. Otherwise, if your voice is not rewarded, that's how now we turn to what we talked about earlier, the robotic system, where I'm just expected to deliver the results, and boom, quiet quitting starts right there. Then we have better collaboration, and this happens a lot in organizations. Of course, if I'm in customer care, I will have to liaise with the logistics team or the marketing team full time. So if I am not in that space of feeling happy in my organization, I will always hold back and cause delays in the whole process. While an all round employee is very intentional on making sure when a ticket is sent, their objective is to resolve the ticket, not throwing the monkey across the room on it is not my department, it is not my task, let them handle it. You take full ownership and accountability because you know at the end of the day, this is a job I'm recognized for and I'm being rewarded for generously. That's the aspect that we need to work around in leadership and organizations. There's a lot of scarcity mentality where one feels it's either or, it's either profit or it's happiness. Both can't coexist. And I also experienced that. I had leaders who are like, Sophia, why are you happy? I don't understand why you're happy. And at the end of the day, I will still get the rewarded as the best sales manager. But to them, they didn't understand why I was happy. Like you should wake up sad. I honestly never understand that to this day. Why there's that mindset that it's 8 a.m. You don't need to be happy. Like the world is sad. Everyone is driving or walking to their offices, and that's the thing. Offices are are put in this pedestal of you can be happy in that space, and that's why we are here. Workplace happiness program is changing that narrative for people to see they can all coexist, because you spend 80% of your time in this life at your workplace. So imagine spending all your life unhappy. What's the point? What's really the point? Right? So let's rock this and get this rolling. May I see somebody saying something on the chat so that I confirm I'm very audible and we're doing this. We are all in this together. I would be happy to hear from one or all of you. Then we have reduced absenteeism, of course, because if there are people that are feeling valued and worthy in their work environment, I will show up at my workplace. I know people who fake sick leaves every Monday because they can. Why is it because they can? Because they don't feel like the workplace is somewhere they belong. And they're just there to make sure all their sick leave days are put to use. So they use them like that. But if this employee was in a happy state, of course they will show up, because why would you fake being sick? Sick is so low vibrational. So you can imagine someone choosing a low vibrational vibe just to avoid showing up at the workplace. Food for thought. As leaders, we we're being challenged to think out of the box and handle this exponentially in a way that there can be maximum output and results. for everyone because it is very, very attainable. And that is exactly where we are. The leadership part as a lever of happiness. It begins with us. Change begins with us. As I always say, the fish rots from the head. So if the leader is unhappy, of course the employees will feel the unhappiness state right there, right? And so leadership is the source of self-mastery. And these are the other master classes I get to offer. Leadership and self-mastery, they go hand in hand. And that is where we'll cover the time quadrant, also how does maximum productivity look like, how do you go about your day, the Pomodoro technique, how do you focus on 3 things for a period of time. That's the Sigma rule. Because what we find ourselves as leaders sometimes, we are clogged with so many things. And at the end of the day, you do the minimal. So, how do you get to eat the frog? How do you handle the most difficult task at hand? But it's very critical. If you handle that, you get to skyrocket what is expected of you in the company. And as you're doing this, you're delegating the small tasks to the team that needs to handle the Q1, urgent and important tasks. So why leaders end up very unhappy is because they spend a lot of their precious time focusing on urgent and important things which can be handled by other employees. And so as a leader, your emotional climate is very, very critical. This is very, very critical than the task at hand. So, how are you as a leader? And that's why the Workplace Happiness Program starts with us. That's why I'm handling this masterclass right now, focusing on return on investment, especially by leaders. This is a pitch for leaders to their organizations for them to understand the value. Why do we need it? And if you have no good understanding of the emotional climate, and we'll cover it right here under self-awareness, then it comes to eat you up in the organization because as within, so without, as below, so above, you can't fight it. Energy is felt. If you're not okay as a leader, everyone in the team gets to feel it. And automatically, a disengaged leader equals a disengaged team. It goes without, it's just what it is. And so we have a very big task at hand to change this narrative. And that's why we're here today to cover how would that look like. Then a self-aware leader, self-awareness, that's where it is at. Because it's so hard to catch yourself. We always look out at the others, and you're always pointing. When I'm pointing at you like this, I'm pointing at myself with so many fingers. And that's the awareness. Can I see when I'm pointing someone, I'm also pointing myself? What is my role for everything that happens? Because it always takes two. Everything takes two. I can say it was you. And this is where ownership and accountability comes home. Understanding that your self-awareness in your energy, in your trust, and your output. Can you put them all together and feel your energy and call yourself out? Can you be a good listener? And we will be handling that, where you look at how am I managing my communication? Am I communicating for me or am I communicating for the team? How am I doing that? And we cover that through the locks model, and we'll cover it in a deeper length in another masterclass, but I will touch on it right here. So this is the practical framework. What does it look like when employees have the workplace happiness program as part of their day-to-day? So the goal is to make this a lifestyle, not you get paid today, then after 1 year, is when you're getting paid again. So you're waiting to be happy after being paid. Like you're not happy in this present moment, you only wait for the reward. And sometimes it doesn't happen. So does it mean if you don't get a pay increment next year, you will stay sad for a lifetime? Because that is what you're signing up for. How do we have a sustainable model where we are happy humans as we show up to work every day? And so, one of the things we cover is on psychological safety. And right on the psychological safety is where we talk about things that are very, very challenging and very systematic from what has been done in the past. So, what you will find with so many organizations in the past, they are high power distant companies. So, you get to feel the hierarchy. Like, you can't walk today to the CEO's office. Why not? And this is a conversation we had on the International Day of Happiness, where we were having. Oh, thank you, Ndongo, for being here. Hey, happy person, keep rocking. Thank you so much. And so we had the group CEO of Nation Media Group as one of our keynote speakers on the International Day of Happiness, which was 2 weeks ago, the other Friday. And one of the things he mentioned is how there's a door designated for him. And so he was like, why am I the only one who uses that door? And so he told employees, use that door. And then they used it because he told them. Then the next day, no one used the door. And that speaks a lot about the culture, the fear culture that has been put there as a system for centuries. How do we change that to a warm up environment where empathy takes the day, where coexistence takes the day, where authenticity takes the day? And that is the challenge for us today as leaders on psychological safety, which is very, very critical in everything that we get to do for high performance. High performance is it. That's where it is at. Showing up, delivering results, and blooming because we can. It's not either or. I'll keep saying that. You don't need money to be there and happiness there. Both can coexist. You can bring them both and feel the vibration and the frequency of all the energy of both of them, because that is the human potential. We are taking this away from the set system of control, the traditional organizational way of running business, to understanding human potential, which brings us to meaning and purpose. I love this Japanese concept so much. Ikigai. Ikigai is about your whole being. It's about what you love. How do you show up as a human being? What do you love doing? What can get you paid for that you love doing? How can you be of service to mankind? What is your mission? So, bringing all this home together to alignment, because alignment is where everything happens, and we'll cover that later and see how does that look like. How do they get to sync with the organization goals? Because they actually can. Ikigai is a favorite of mine, always, any day. And recognition and belonging. With the happiness at place, of course, you just feel the energy across the room. And as a leader, this is where it's very, very critical how you recognize your team. If they have attained something, how do you show up for that? And one of the other critical things is how you give feedback. That's another masterclass altogether on communication. How do you get to give constructive feedback? And the environment you choose to give feedback. If I'm doing something wrong right now, my boss can't come here and type here, Sophia, no, 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 no. What are you doing? Shut down the machine right now. No, they choose the right environment. After this, they call me and tell me, Sophia, it was so, so lovely to see you handle such a masterclass and get to speak to people nationally and globally. They give me all the good things that I am doing and then sandwich. I think there is a better way to do this and this. I saw you handling it like this. I see an opportunity for you to, you know, and that goes a long way because I feel seen and heard and appreciated, and they mean very well for my growth path for me to deliver the best results across. So feedback is very, very critical on how we show up for belonging. And again, as we talked about awareness, sometimes it's so hard to catch yourself because sometimes you just, maybe you're a field manager, you're out with the team and you saw how they handle the client or the customer. And then when you just get back in the car and you're many, you start, what was that you did? You don't do that. That will make us lose business, And that is a source of unhappiness, pressure coming from the top, and it stems down. So as leaders, how do you get to handle feedback in such a constructive way that it delivers results across? Because we can attain that. Then my favorite part is about merging goals. The personal goals and organizational goals, how can they get into alignment? What is the mission vision of the organization and what are my personal goals? So I'll share something very simple that I used to use full time in my roles in leadership. So during reviews, I would sit with a team member and I get to ask them, what are you working towards for this year? Where do you see yourself a year from now? Where do you see yourself 2 years from now? And it would be a simple thing as, right now, I just left campus. I'm in my internship. Next year, I would love to be in a good role, earning about this amount so that I can afford to move from my hostel and start a rental house. Such simple things. And now, when they tell you that, you take it as part of the coaching and ownership. So when you meet a month or reviewing Q1, Q2, Q3 goals, you ask them, how is this going? How is the saving towards this goal? And what this does automatically, without even you realizing, is they wake up and show up every day knowing my boss actually cares about me in my personal goals that I am aiming towards. And so automatically, the ripple effect is it's rewarding for you in business, in everything that you're getting to deliver for them. They're getting to deliver rather in the organization. And now, going to the other part that I really love, influencing factors. So, as a leader, how does this look like for you? Someone confirm you can hear me. I see the screen is unstable. Looks like now it's back. Amazing. I hope it is back. So, there are 5 influencing factors that we can use as leaders when we are managing the environment in whatever that looks like. So, one of these is charisma. You choose the moment to be charismatic while giving feedback or having a conversation. And there are times that will call for logic. The employee needs to understand this is what is done and why it is important we do it this way. And at the same time, there is a third one, which is compromise. How an employee comes to you and tells you this is what is happening in their lives, how can you get to compromise and see that the company goals are delivered as well as their personal goals are met? How do you get to match the two? And they can coexist. Like, there are times I would have team members that unfortunately their child got unwell, and it's not just for a day, it's for a week. Like, they got burnt and they have to be admitted. So what happens? Because the mom has to be with the baby, we have to find a way where the rest of the employees come together and Speaking of Ubuntu, which is a big African concept. I am because you are because I am. How do we bring it home to ensure that we are delivering the best results as a team, such that if one of us is lagging behind, we come and save the day? And that is what we did. It actually happened. One of my team members, unfortunately, one of their babies got burnt back then, but now they're amazing. But they had to stay in hospital for 4 weeks. 4 weeks. And we still delivered winning. We won those cups. Why? Because of that team cohesion and setting very high expectations and delivering them boldly, so because we can. And then the fifth one is assertiveness. Sometimes you have to be very assertive, and it's okay because the moment calls for that. As a leader, you can tell when someone is creating mchezo wa town, as we say in Nairobi, meaning someone is playing games, and you can see through them. And when you see through them, you choose assertiveness in that moment because you can tell. And that is the gift of discernment. As leaders, we are gifted with discernment, so you can tell and apply accordingly. And we also have the LOCS model. So the LOCS model is LOCS, and we'll have another masterclass where we take a deep dive into that. But this is about listening. As a leader, how do you get to listen to understand? That is the L. Then leaders, we are very, 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 I talked about it earlier. We love to hear the sound of our own voices. So we listen to respond and not listen to actually hear, where you put yourself in the other shoes. That is where the empath comes in. You put them in their shoes. And I would love to ask you a question at this point. If a junior employee walked to you, what would be your response that you've never seen? Do you send them to another manager, or do you actually to them? They came to your office door. Do you listen to them openly and ready to help them close whatever they need to close? A food for thought. Then we have, after listen, we have options, which is the open. What are the options after you've listened? What are the options? Then you go to the C, which is co-create. How can you support them in that? How can you come up with a solution? And that's a co-create. Then S is the solution, where you support them in finding the solution, because at the end of the day, coaching is always about letting the person take full ownership and accountability for the results. How do they get to own the day for the best feeling of, I actually did that. It was me. I delivered the result. And so this takes us to the happiness foundation. How does happiness become a working system? It's about sustainability. It's not a one-day thing. It's about a lifestyle. How do we create a lifestyle of happiness in workplaces? Workplace happiness program becomes very critical, and it comes in different aspects, measures. It might be the happiness workshops. We might enroll your organization as part of the workplace happiness program and offer courses on that depending on the HR need. So this is very collaborative. We get to interact with the HR team, and they get to tell us, what do you need as an organization? And over and beyond that, we have the happy engagement metrics and surveys that we get to share directly with the employees, who can share collaboratively what do they really need, because they know it better. And there's some level of safety. Of course, another masterclass that will be there to cover change. Change is very hard. And even an organization, as it's adapting their workplace happiness program, of course, you get to feel the impact of that. Change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous in the end. How do we get to the habit installation protocol, all the way to integrating it to be part of the system? And so we will get to cover that as we go along with the master classes. So we get to learn, is it a workshop we need to deliver? What are the happiness metrics needed to measure that? Happiness index. So we will be liaising with the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics to see how would a happiness metric look like. Then we have leadership training, of course. That is my favorite one because leadership is where everything starts and you can feel it streaming down. Then ongoing engagement framework, because it's the only way you can connect and get to know what are the needs for the organization through engagement and openness, have an open culture of learning across. I love that we are all embracing this because there were so many people who are like, I love what you people are doing. They're loving this conversation. And so this is the value that we are bringing every day as we cover the talks and bring change in organization, because it's very, very critical to have sustainable performance. And how you have sustainable performance is by having happy teams. So how does having a happy team look like? And one question I would ask you, would your employees still choose you if given a chance? Would your employees still choose you if given a chance? And that is where sustainability comes into play. And so now we get to see how does the existing system right now in organizations look like, and what is the value proposition for the workplace happiness program. So right now as we speak, there are engagement surveys in organizations, and some have metrics and policies which take a traditional approach, because with these policies, some level there is a level of control. What does the workplace happiness program bring on board? So, one critical thing is inner alignment, because inner alignment is where everything is. Going back to human potential, we all now are living in the days of mirror neurons. We all know about neuroplasticity. So as humans, we are evolving very, very fast. And so the relevance of work has to also be on that momentum for sustainability. And so Workplace Happiness Program brings that inner alignment using the SPIRE framework. So SPIRE is what we use at Happiness Studies Academy, New York, to take the whole course. This is what brings about whole being. So SPIRE, S is spiritual, P is physical, I is intellectual, R is relational, E is emotional. And this is what brings an entire whole being. And adding to the SPIRE is F or M, which is financial and money. Very, very critical for business sustainability, for human sustainability. So if we can learn to merge SPIRE wholeness into the organization, then we are guaranteed of high performance, high profitability, and killing the hidden costs, which we'll cover shortly. What we had covered about the burnout, employee disengagement, quiet quitting. So if employees are in sync with their inner alignment as well as identity, because these are the defining factors of human potential, as well as emotional truth, authenticity vibrates at a higher frequency, way higher than even love, 4,000 times that of love. So, how do you get to be true? How can you stay truthful to the personal values so that you can deliver the organization values? Then human wholeness, which is the W in the SPIRE. How do you get to understand the human being as a whole and they get to deliver results from that momentum of wholeness. And this is where we also get to understand that employee is actually the first customer. Our employee is always the first customer. I think before I go there, I'll use one of these slides to demonstrate that. So, employee is the first internal customer. As we said, as within, so without. So if inbound is not okay, then outbound will also feel the same. But if our happy employee is happy, we can feel that with even our happy customers out here. So getting to close on that feedback loop and delivering the best results to match what our employee would need. And over and beyond this is about winning together as a team. As I mentioned earlier, Ubuntu, I am because you are. So, how do we get to have a team that is winning together? How do we get to know that each stronghold that one has in the team can be merged to bring out the best outcome? What we do as leaders, we want everyone to deliver the same thing, which is mission impossible. So if it is the tech team, how do I have one person focusing on software engineering because they can, that is their stronghold, instead of making them focus on something else, maybe a specific project, while they feel they are best defined on this general role or specification? How do we get to pick and merge everything to work towards the better goal? Because right now we are living in times of conscious leadership. Conscious leadership is where it is at. How do you lead everyone well? Be the leader everyone wants to work for. Become a higher achiever who is indispensable. Like, you're so good at everything that you're doing, and you're doing it from the sunny side. Hope and significance. I'm very big on positivity, and I believe we can all embrace that positivity and keep it shining and rocking all the way to the best part. The best part, what you're trying to achieve with the happiness masterclass, is actually proving that high profitability can coexist with happiness. You don't need to choose either or. Both can coexist. So how do we make both of these coexist? Because they can. So you're very welcome to reach out. Let's get to enroll your organization to the Workplace Happiness Program, because it can only mean better for you. There will be better output from an employee level to your balance sheet. How can your balance sheet look way greater? Because it can. Imagine having to cut on the hidden costs of quiet quitting, the hidden cost of low vibrational employees. And that happens a lot if the leadership is not getting a grip of it from a very early stage. So we get to rock the Workplace Happiness Program and bloom together and make this a lifestyle. We have a ministry of happiness in UAE, United Arab Emirates, Dubai. It has a ministry that focuses on when policies are being executed, they are taken through a process of checking what is the level of well-being, because these are for humans, right? And that's why we have so many unhappy Kenyans right now. So how do we get to change the narrative? So this is one of the ways. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So these are the tiny steps that we are taking on that momentum to see ourselves there. This is just the beginning of many other things to do. But today's focus is the return on investment of workplace happiness program. So go, you be a good ambassador, deliver the best information to your HR if you're watching here as an employee, or if you're a decision maker in an organization. What's holding you back from reaching out to us, and we get to be a part of your organization in the best way possible? So thank you so much, everyone, for being here. It's been great delivering this happiness masterclass, and this is a weekly thing. See you next week as we get to cover another agenda, and I feel like it will be a pitch deck of the workplace happiness masterclass for organizations. So this will be for founders, CEOs, HR leaders, lover of our souls. I see you saying you're late. Worry not. The good thing, I'm just about to be done, and I will save it, and you can rewatch it on my YouTube channel as many times as you want. So you've not lost anything, and you got here exactly when you were meant to get here. So it's perfect. You're very much welcome. Yeah, so thank you all for being here. In case anyone has a question, please type it on the chat bar. I can pick it. And if we don't find any questions in a minute, then we end the live happily, enthusiastically so, and ready to shine and deliver results with love and happiness, because we can. They can all coexist. You can make happy. You can make money while being happy, and you can make happy while money. Job the love the job. See what I did there? This is me waiting for a question. I'm happy to receive any questions. And looks like we are all happy. I love when people are happy. So let's go rock this. Thank you so much. Catch you in the next one. As always with Sophia, this is not a goodbye. Catch you on the next one.